We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Hi folks, Cesar here. Welcome back. This next segment is certainly near and dear to my heart. My next guest is Jerry Poje. He is a member of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. Jerry, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah,
Full disclosure, my family came from a region, a division of affordable housing.
Oh.
If not for that, I'd probably be robbing banks right now. It was a great investment.
No, I'm glad that you had the opportunity.
This is near and dear to me.
Yeah.
I mean, so enlighten us just in general what the committee does and
So the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, as its very name would say, we provide advice to the Department of Housing and Community Development about a range of issues, but most particularly an issue that's becoming more and more of a crisis issue for Fairfax County.
okay.
The crisis in affordability and accessibility of housing. Every child growing up deserves to grow up in a home that they feel secure in.
Sure.
And we now have failed to develop sufficient housing stock that people are in dire situations. The Department of Housing and Urban Development would say that to be safely housed, you shouldn't be spending more than 30% of your salary on your housing.
So let me make sure I understand this. So the recommendation is that you've got $100 coming in the door. You're not supposed to spend more than 30 of that in any type of living, housing, either mortgage or rental situation.
Right.
That's not where most people are, by the way.
It's not where most people are, but the reason for that is because there are so many other essentials aspects of life that a family needs to spend money on.
Sure.
Education for their children, health care for themselves, food, all the other expenses of living in a house, telephones, electricity, water, everything that you could imagine. That's where the rest of your salary goes to. And if you start spending over that, you're called housing burdened,
Okay.
which means you're robbing from Peter to pay the Paul of housing.
So is that before they're saving for retirement, IRAs, 401ks? It's
This is before everything
Okay.
because you can't build a nest egg for your retirement
correct.
if you're spending the money
Gotcha.
on rents.
Yeah.
Now, the average rent in Fairfax County,
Oh gosh.
almost $1,800. You know what kind of a salary you need to have as a family in
Well,
order to safely be housed at that rental rate?
Yeah.
Almost $70,000 per year,
And what's the average household income in Fairfax County?
below 50.
Yeah.
So we're in this crisis. The
Sure.
gap between where people's salary are and where their housing needs are is out of control. And if we don't take public policy measures to change that around, we're going to be in a very uneconomical area of the country.
So who's your target for that? Is it the Board of Supervisors?
Boards of Supervisors play a major role. The Redevelopment Housing
I'm
Authority.
not picking on them
No, no.
tonight. I just
No, it's actually, this is where, we elect leaders. We need leaders who are going to understand what are the structural challenges in our community at the moment, and how do we steer the ship so that we're going to be able to have an existing economy that grows and thrives.
yeah.
And
Now, Reston, if we can talk about that, because I
Sure.
have property there. I live in Herndon. So Robert Simon had a vision. I'm sure you're familiar with
I'm
it.
familiar with it. Terrific vision.
That never really panned out, as I understand it.
So it did pan out
Okay.
in Reston, right?
Okay.
Reston became one of the first model
Yes.
communities.
But spreading from there.
For some reason,
It
we
stopped.
didn't have clones of Bob Simon
That's right.
penetrating into the private development
And that was,
community
for me, the
saying,
goal.
here's a good vision,
Right.
buy into it.
Right.
And the county, while it loved the vision
Yeah.
from Reston, never thought that it itself should be setting up policy circumstances to nurture more of that throughout the county.
Well,
The time is now. You can look in the past and say, well, we didn't do it. The time is now for people to invent a better shared vision of what could and should be done.
so do you talk to or meet with the Board of Supervisor or Chairman Bolova?
We do.
What's the response back? What's the feedback?
So the boards of supervisors, we serve, having been nominated and acted upon to join the Affordable Housing Committee by the elected leadership of the county. In doing that, we are perhaps their pocket experts, if you will, on this particular issue, and we seek to give to them analysis on what needs to be done. For the last 2 years, we've been working on a new strategic plan for affordable housing, and we've been successful to the extent that the plan, as we've put forward, has had 2 phases. The first phase has been approved by the boards of supervisors, so we're now rapidly working on implementing that through the staff of the Department of Housing and Community Development. Phase 2, which is the phase where we're going to have to put money where our mouths are, is the one that's in formation. And this current board and the one that gets elected in 2019 is going to play the pivotal role. Anybody wishing to become a new board member better bone up on this issue. It's central to the future of the county for us to solve the affordable housing crisis.
So tell us a little bit of what's entailed in this proposal or this.
So what's
phase
entailed in
two.
it is our understanding that every aspect of housing and every economy in the county, from high-end to crisis poverty, is embedded in this new strategic vision for the county. We have places in our county that have been populated with McMansions. Take McLean. Very high-end community.
Well, the zoning won't allow anything but that, let's be honest. Right?
So living in a 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom house may have been ideal when you were in a young family stage of life, and you may have had enough children to put into all of those bedrooms and bathrooms. But now that your family has matured, they've gone off into other geographies, you may have a widow living in a 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom house, wishing she could stay in her beloved community of McLean. There's no place for her to move into in the community where her doctor, her dentist, her hairdresser, her bridge club, her library, everything that she has been familiar with is not, it's not available for her. We haven't built that kind of housing stock, and it's going to take a private-public venture to make sure we start to change the trajectory of types of housing that we need for everybody in the county.
Now, is the current board on board with this?
Mostly so. They are on board.
Okay.
You know, I'm wearing a button today that
Fairfax.
says One Fairfax.
I like that.
This is the board's approval. Both the school board and the boards of supervisors have approved a policy that says, as we go forward, let's make sure we're making judgments about policy advancement seen through the eyes of a racial and social equity lens.
It's interesting you put those two together, because I've always felt that some people stayed away from the school, the housing, the economic. I mean, all those, like a tapestry, are woven together.
It's so important, Cesar, that we begin to break out of these silos and see how interrelated everything is. An average school teacher, new school teacher coming into the school system is making less than $50,000 a year. If he or she is lucky, they'll find something in the surrounding geography. It may not even be in Fairfax.
That's a crime. That's
for
an
which
absolute-
they now need to commute into Fairfax to do that
It's
work.
that way with first responders. I mean,
Right.
you can go down the list.
And we can only easily understand
Yeah.
that a school teacher teaching in the community where he and she are raising their own family
Yeah.
is showing due diligence
Absolutely.
in the
You're
education
getting
of
so
those
much more out of
children.
them.
And they
Absolutely.
have time because they live in the community to take care of their own children
That's right.
in the way we would hope every parent would be able to invest in nurturing
This
a
is
child.
really a radical, a fundamental shift by the
Right.
way we've traditionally done managed zoning development, et
Right.
cetera,
Well,
and allocation.
everybody will tell you when you're dealing with housing, the critical issue is the cost of the land.
Mhm.
So how much land is owned by the county that could become the starting point for public-private partnership that would change the shape of the way we build communities?
So let me challenge you on that, because I've had this, and please enlighten me if I'm wrong on this. When you have that, there's one goal for the private sector. That is profit.
Right.
The public interest has nothing to do with profit.
Right.
In fact, you cannot quantify in out years what the return is.
Right.
But that's not what the private systems want. They want a return on this dollar, this quarter, this year.
And I think you're right. There are challenges on how do you optimize for different players in the arena of building housing. I think there's many communities that have figured out. You don't build a public housing standalone
Thank
structure.
you. God bless you. Thank
This
you.
is not what's needed.
Right.
I mean, we have parts of our county where if we're going to rescue children who are living in a impoverished portion of the community,
Right.
they need to be going to school
Amen.
with children who have different economies, so they're all capturing the wave of a vision about their own future growth and development, and we can do that. It means that you have to be thinking more complexly about a project.
Right.
And we've built one in Fairfax County, workforce housing, right near the government center. The government center, a huge plot of land, worked with a private developer, leveraged the available state and federal housing dollars to build something that is a complex living space, very beautifully designed, where you're having people paying market rate, living together with people who are getting a subsidy rate for their housing. They're all workforce people. The ones that we need to have in Fairfax County government are living in these communities.
And that's set for a duration of time, or is that a permanent?
That'll be a permanent operation, which is what we have to have.
We're going to be back. I love this topic, folks. Please come back and join us for our last segment.
And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. My love, she keeps me warm. 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 She keeps me warm.
We are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
Love is kind. Love is patient.
Open road, here comes the Heffley family.
Whether it's a short trip or a long haul,
Estimated time 47 hours.
they will beg,
You're hungry? I'm happy to provide.
they will plead.
Deep fried butter on a stick.
But whatever you do, don't wimp out.
Now you're talking.
Make them buckle up.
He can't hurt.
Remember, safety first. Cheese curls second.
Are you orange?
Eva Marie smoked 12,000 packs of cigarettes over 15 years. She quit, and now there's a new lung cancer that could save her life. You stopped smoking. Now start screening. No matter how much you smoked, early detection could save you. Talk to your doctor or learn more at savedbythescan.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Hi folks, Cesar back here with you for our final segment. With me is my guest, Jerry Poje. He is a member of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. Love this topic. Let's continue it because let me just use Herndon, my hometown, as an example. Elementary school there is about 70% free, reduced lunches, meals, and programs. Right. That stems out to the surrounding area, obviously the housing. I mean, this thing permeates everything. So development, investment. How does something like that? How do we sort of plan for that in the future?
So Cesar, that's a terrific example. You know, for years, Fairfax County has passed separate bond issues for capital improvement of schools,
do this.
Of the government. Yeah. Now we're starting to understand that single-purpose capital improvement is a death trap. It's taking us down blind alleys. A community in which the kids currently are at 70% free and reduced lunch tells you so much, not just about the children, but the families that they come from. So the families that are delivering those children now as fresh, young, bright bodies to the schooling process, they're people who are struggling mightily with their own economies, and yet they're probably doing terrific services to everybody in that surrounding area. They may be in retail. Average retail worker in Fairfax County, $29,000 per year. If two retail workers are married to each other, they still haven't reached that pinnacle of the average rent for the county. We need to begin to think, let's say a capital improvement is being proposed for that very school in Herndon. You don't want to just renovate the classrooms and take the trailer population and put them in the building. That's necessary, but it's not sufficient. That school needs to become a much more important and more complex community resource. There should be social service agencies, public and private, providing the kind of one-stop shopping that the community is going to need. And guess what you could build on top of that school? You could build affordable housing that would allow, perhaps for a 2 to 3 year period, a reduced rate for the new school teacher, or for the bus driver, or for the maintenance crew that provide all the essential services, keeping that building going. They would live on site in the very places where the children
And the county could control that, correct?
The county would have a great opportunity for doing that. It requires vision on the part of the boards of supervisors.
Leadership and commitment.
And on the part of the county executive and his deputies that really are charged now with shaping the future of Fairfax County. I'm optimistic, but I'm only going to be more optimistic if more people step into this space and say, we need to do it. We got to build the new Reston type communities in every part of Fairfax County. We can't wait for somebody to come from the outside with a vision and do it. We know this vision could work here.
And it's truly an integrated solution, right? Because you're addressing all the separate components, right? You're developing and building these things that influence and affect each other and impact each other, correct?
And we need to be assured that other communities around the country are recognizing the housing crisis in their area. They know the threats to its own economic development. I mean, Fairfax County has an economic development agency seeking to woo businesses into our community. But there's no business that's coming to Fairfax only with the president and vice presidents and chief financial officers making $6K salaries. They're also bringing people who are going to make $60,000, $40,000, $30,000, and they're going to contract with essential services like building maintenance for people who are going to work at the very low levels. All those people are necessary for that business development. If we can't provide the infrastructure to house those folks, those businesses are going to relocate maybe to Massachusetts. Massachusetts this year passed a $1.8 billion state bond for supporting the affordability of housing, preserving existing housing, and setting in motion the creation of new housing. Boston's going to be out competing Fairfax if we don't see the challenge of fixing our housing problem. That's a great vision to put before the people, and we're going to need candidates for office.
Jerry, I don't think anyone's aware of that, quite frankly.
It will work, and we need to get on with it. We have the opportunity in 19 to elect a state senate, a state legislature, and county officials who should all be on board with the need for the reinvigoration of Fairfax County to be livable for all.
But when you cut it down, when you slice it, it's really the county board of supervisors, the chairman, that really control this, right? I mean, so we can get some, incentives from Richmond, but ultimately it lies with the Board of Supervisors.
Every county should be part of this larger challenge. So, for example, the state of Massachusetts is passing a statewide bond.
Gotcha.
The flow of the money from that statewide bond should go to the communities that are figuring out that they should also be leveraging their resources to do local bonds. And these bonds that we would be talking about would create revolving funds. In other words,
at the state level.
Loaning the money out, getting the housing built, and then reclaiming the same money for you to do more of this.
And it's just a little promo for, this is why you need a change in Richmond, because the current legislative body would never, in my humble opinion, approve anything so generous, because you're basically helping develop these communities.
Cesar, let's think. The state of Virginia ranks 12th among all the states in the rates of evictions. In Virginia, we are throwing out onto the street over 140 people every day. Every day. And the reason we're doing that is in part because we haven't created the affordability of housing stock to safely house everybody. And it's a dog-eat-dog world. People have an economic travail, an injury, a medical sickness, somebody dies in the family, and somebody is very ill. We shouldn't be throwing people out onto the street because they couldn't make the affordable rent for that month. We should have a safety net created in order to ensure that we're thriving and we're going to have the housing stock necessary for the next generation to safely build their own communities as strong, vibrant places.
And you're talking more just the opportunity. Right. You're creating the opportunity where people can rent or can buy, not necessarily subsidizing these.
No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about making sure the physical infrastructure in every community is adapted to all the ranges of economies necessary to have that community thrive. Each one of us is wearing a jacket. At some point in time, we're going to have to take it to a cleaner's. We want to go to a cleaner's in our own community. How much of a salary base should that small business have for its owner and for its workforce? We want that service. We want to go to a drugstore when we're sick and be able to get those prescriptions filled. We want to have those people live in our community. We want to have a community that's vibrant enough that it has a home for everybody.
Some people will say there's enough affordable housing out there now.
They're not looking at the data. I mean, you can say You can make whatever statement you want. Our Affordable Housing Advisory Committee has shown that we are missing 31,000 affordable rental units in Fairfax County. And if you look towards our future, the need, in addition to that 31, is going to be 62,000 additional affordable units
by when?
in 15 years. So we're in a race. And I think we can win this race, but it's going to be won by people with bright minds and open hearts and a commitment that says we can grow a vision to really get ourselves straight in this county. This is a big challenge, but I think we're up for it.
I think it's a great message. How can people get involved? I mean, I'm sure there's public hearings.
So there'll be public hearings. Every year we suggest a budget through the county executive, and then we ratify it. If we don't hear from people that answer the question, do we need more affordable housing in our area, then we won't get people feeling pressure to say, yes, we better do this. There are other ways. Our committee went out to the highways and byways of Fairfax County, sat down with folks, called them into public hearings to say, what's your challenges? We went to a hearing at the Annandale Government Center in which an entire table full of people who were doing 2 jobs for each of the adults in this rental housing came to participate. They described the challenges. They're doing 2 families living in one house, right, 1 apartment, and they are doing 4 jobs to serve their community, and they are packed densely, and they had the landlord come to them and say, we're going to raise the rent 20%. Now, because we don't have available housing stock, we're giving almost no hope to those hardworking people that this is a place where we want them to. This is the type of person
there's a disparity.
These people were my grandparents who were immigrants who came to this country. And I'm here today doing quite well, but it's only because there was an opportunity for people way back when to work hard and begin to have a future for themselves.
And that's why I want to get involved, and I'm encouraging everyone else to get involved. I think this is important, not just for our region, but quite frankly, for our country. So, Jerry, thank you so much for joining us.
Terrific.
We're going to have you back because I can talk about this more. Folks, appreciate you joining us this evening. I hope this was of value. Please come back and see us again.